We are talking about social justice and responsibility. Social justice and responsibility. And I told you social justice is about treating people what? Fairly. And I told you responsibility is whereby you what? You can account for what you did. You're being accountable. So if you come to Amos, and Amos condemned the following injustices. That means that in Israel, there were people who were not fair. There were people who were not accountable for their actions. So, these people, what did they do? What did Amos condemn? Number one, he condemned slavery. This is whereby the rich sold the poor to what? Poor in order to do what? To pay for their what? If a poor person could not be able to pay for their debts, the rich person would sell them in order as a way of paying that debt. So here, as I told you in the morning, they forgot about the law of what? Brotherhood. That this is my brother. I should treat them the way I want to be treated. Because if you are selling someone as a slave, you know a slave does not have a say. Do you know a difference between a worker and a slave?
Yes.
A worker is paid, a slave is not what? Paid. You can misuse a slave. Number two, another social and responsibility issue that Amos condemned is sexual immorality. And I want you to listen carefully. On sexual immorality, this is whereby, is it a man? Will you call it a man? Or are we going to call it a boy? And the father, yes? Yes, it is whereby a son and their father shared the same prostitute. Yes. They both shared the same prostitute. So that was sexual immorality. This is whereby they also practiced what? Temple prostitution. Temple prostitution is whereby if you were not given birth or you wanted to engage in sexual matters, you go and engage it in the what? The temple. If you did not have a child, and maybe your wife was not rearing a child, you go and you have sexual intercourse in the temple with another woman. That was temple prostitution. This is very delicate. The third social injustice that Amos condemned is what? Idolatry. And idolatry basically is doing what? Worshipping what? Idols. And here they were worshipping small gods. For example, a god called what? Kaiwan. They were worshipping these gods, small gods. They were worshipping the idols. And this was against the commandment. The fourth social injustice that he condemned is bribery and corruption. Just right there, corruption. Corruption is bribery is found in corruption. Because if you are bribing someone, that is corruption, right? Yes. If you are misusing public funds, that is what? Corruption. Corruption is misuse of public funds, bribery, yes, and using your own what? You use your, it's called what? Mamlaka vibaya. You use your what? Mamlaka is what in English? Is it your merit? You misuse your merit, yes? For example, if you are principal and you say, dear, at our school, we are only admitting students with 400 and above marks. So a student comes who has 350 or 300. And then you tell the parent, bring something. Yes? Yes? And then you admit them. That is corruption. Or, if there is funding that is brought to the school, like the way we normally are brought for funds, by let's say the alumni brings forth money to pay for needy students. And then instead of us paying for needy students, the principal looks and says, oh, I know, madam. And then my son is in this school. Then the funds are going to my son. Yes? Yet I'm able to pay, right? Yes, that is misuse of your merit. So in Amos condemned corruption. Corruption, where was corruption? The elders took bribes. The elders took bribes from the people. Why were they taking bribes? Yes? They were taking bribes to work as a fine. Instead of helping innocent people. There are people who are innocent and they were being victimized by the rich. But instead of the elders fighting for them, they were taking bribes in form of fines, and then they were not protecting the innocent. So the poor ended up being intimidated. That was all about corruption. That was an injustice. Then there was the breaking of the law of garments. There was a law about garments. So here what we're doing is breaking God's law on garments secured on pledges. So for example, if you wanted to borrow during that time, the money of that time, or if you wanted to get something, you could be able to get that thing as a creditor on credit. You take your own garments. Garments in war. You take your own garments, and then you are able to be given what you wanted. So that at the end of the day, you take back what you needed, yes, and then you're given back your what? Your garment. But the law said that you should give back the garment at the end of the what? The day. But the rich in Israel were not doing that. If you don't pay up your debt before even that sunset, they failed to return the garments. Remember that you're supposed to return the garment before what? Sunset. So, if you did not return the garments, if you did not return whatever you had taken or the debt, you did not pay for the debt, the garments were what? They did not take back the garments, and then they also ashamed you in front of the people. The law was whether you pay or not, you're supposed to be returned for your what? Your garment. So these rich people took advantage. Instead of obeying the law and giving back the garment, whether the creditor paid or not, they would shame you in front of people and not to give back your what? Your garment. That was breaking the law garment. There was also greed or excessive luxury. Let us call it greed. So here we have rich merchants who have what? They are rich merchants who have their own wives or women. And here you have to remember these women are women of where? Samaria. They lived luxurious lives under their own what? Their own husbands. So they lived under these yes, they lived under their own husbands. So they led luxurious lives and they were very unkind to the poor. They were very unkind to the poor. What they did is they were pushing their husbands to to exploit the poor. They were pushing their husbands to exploit the poor so that they can be able to continue with their luxurious what? Lives. So because you're living in a luxury, you don't want to live that luxurious life.